Let me now straighten out something. I was not fired from the Honest Bunch. I was never fired from the Honest Bunch. I decided to step away when the attacks became very personal, so that the show can go on and stand succeed even without me being there. So I was not fired. Beyond being the host of the Honest Bunch, I mean, years ago, me and the people at Rachel sat down, came up with this idea of the Honest Bunch. Hence, the show and how we drive it. So I've gotten to the point where it is arguably the biggest podcast. We came together and formed it. But anyway, even on the show, if you are a TV host or a radio host, you have to understand that sometimes people play devil's advocates. That is my job on the show, to play devil's advocate. Husband Material has his own job. Is in the tone, they all have their job. My job is to ask the hard questions. That is my job. And it's also my job to make statements that most of them I feel think, but you can't say it. That is my job. And if for nothing, it has encouraged conversation, hard conversations that people don't want to have. And having said all this, all I'm going to say that it is very, very sad. Anyway, let's just leave that. This is all I want to say about the Honest Bunch. Why this press briefing is based on the criminal or something that was online. But I'm going to hand it over to Sarah here, that is the head of our management, to handle that one.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon. Okay, let's get straight into the situation. Okay, my name is Sarah Williams. Now, it's very heartbreaking when a situation begins to affect your baby. What do? You preserve the child. You're not half as important as the child. If you're a true parent, your first thought is to preserve the child. So when it became clear that this was a personal attack because of another guest's statement that could have been addressed, and an expectation was being set that if you are friends or you have relationship with Mr. Nedu, when somebody comes to the Honest Bunch to talk about their story and it involves you, Mr. Nedu is supposed to put a stop to it, or is supposed to do something about it. He said, I will not have that be the narrative. I'm too professional to have that be the narrative. So if stepping away from the Honest Bunch will let people see that these conversations will still be had. The person that wants to say anything will still get the chance to say what they want to say. If you're offended or you have a contrary opinion, you still have the opportunity to either come on the Honest Bunch or go somewhere else and share your own opinion. But what you will not do is use my relationship with you as an expectation that I would in some way shut another person up. So I will be stepping away and the Honest Bunch will continue. Now when I'm not in the picture anymore and somebody else comes and says whatever it is they say, hopefully this time you will address the person or you will address their opinion and not go on a personal attack spree. Because if I wasn't in the picture, who would you attack? Would you not respond to whatever was said? And if you didn't want to respond, which is also your choice, you could just ignore. Silence in itself, it's also a statement, right? So you have that option, ignore, or do a rebuttal, or on your platform, explain your own side. For you not to do that and expect that, oh, why would Mr. Nedu be there and you call me your friend and they're saying things about me and you're not shutting me down? That fundamentally points to part of the problems that is wrong with us in Nigeria. It's entitlement. You're expecting me to use my position to benefit you. What about the other person that has something to say? How many people am I going to use my position to continue to protect or benefit? So that's why he stepped away from the honest bunch. We want to maintain the sanctity of the honest bunch. We want to protect the honest bunch. We want to continue to try.
So Nedu finally put out a statement to clear the air because there was a lot of confusion with the whole thing. Some people were like, no, he did not step aside, but he was pushed out. And others were like, no, he did step aside because the controversy surrounding him was just too much for the network to swallow. Either way, to me, I think he did what he thought was right. He did what he thought was necessary. And let's hope that his actions finally put an end to this saga. Let's hope so. And let me just say this before I continue, because I feel like when people have made up their mind, or if people have made up their mind, no matter what you say, doesn't register with them. When they have their own narrative or figure out in their minds and their head, whatever you tell them doesn't really change a thing. The reason I'm saying this is because I have said this like a lot on this particular platform, that I am not really against VDM. And I will not be cornered or be boxed into just going along with every single thing he said and does. If he said something that was of importance to a lot of people, or that was for the greater good, of course, I will go along, I will appreciate, I will recommend, and I will promote it in a positive light. But if he does something that was very, very destructive, or he might have thought it was needed to be done without even giving it a thought through, or he might have just been sucking to his ego, then of course I will come here and say what you did was inappropriate. And even though I respect you, I think you've done a lot, this action that you took wasn't really necessary. Neither was it for the greater good. And I would just hope that everyone does the same. That when you see someone doing something which you clearly think was wrong, you should say something about it. You shouldn't be like you are in a court where everything the court leader does is right. No one can ever be 100% right all the time. And that is why we need people around him who will be able to call him out when he is doing something that is not correct. I will hope people see this. I will hope people look at this issue through these lenses. I will hope so. So I saw, I think, was it an article or maybe a statement that someone put out against Nedu, and she was blaming him for the things, or I don't know if it was the clash she faced from netizens after she went on the Honest Bunch podcast. Now, according to her, when she went there and everything was done, the video they put out was damaging to her brand and to her family. And when all this was going on, Nedu Wazobia was trying to have one funny relationship with her and was constantly disturbing her on WhatsApp. I would like us to just read this whole statement and also a few comments so that you guys have an understanding of exactly what went down. So, for clarity's sake, I have to say that we have not independently verified this information. So, it is just for informational purposes only. So, it reads, the clips cut from my episode on that show for promotional purposes were designed to attract trolls, and my brand was subjected to all sorts of dragging. While this was happening, Nedu, who was in my WhatsApp messages, asked me out. Even people flooded my son's social media page, cursing and swearing at him. The best time to kick a man's is certainly not when he is down. I have forgiven him and genuinely wish him nothing but the best. Actress Yvonne opens up about her experience following her interview on the Honest Bunch podcast with Nedu. So, you guys have heard what this lady had to say, that she suffered a lot after she went on the podcast. Listen, this is just me saying this. And I guess, like somebody on Thread said, that the only reason I might be saying things like this is because I haven't found myself in certain situations. And that is why I think that people should not be blamed for other things. And I think that people should not blame others for the difficulties they face or the unfortunate situation they met in their own lives. Let me explain. When you inhabit this notion of always pushing the blames on other people rather than facing it yourself, you give yourself a room not to take responsibilities for your own actions. Listen, as an adult, you and only you are responsible for the things that happen in your life. At least the things you could control or you can control. Now, this lady went to the Honest Bunch podcast, and I would guess that her intention of going there was maybe to promote herself, to get some exposure. And unfortunately for her, things didn't go the way she expected. That is how life is. No matter what we do, we all hope and pray it goes well, isn't it? But that does not necessarily mean that everything will go well. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Things can go well and things can just go horribly wrong. We need to know that. And if things go sour, we should hold ourselves responsible. Because before we even engage in that thing, we knew it was a 50-50% chance of going either way, isn't it? So this whole thing of seeing people just pushing the blame on Nedu, to me, is just a victim mentality thing. And I'm not saying that Nedu doesn't deserve some of the things that are being thrown his way. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, as an adult, you will have to hold yourself accountable for the things you do and the things you say. That's just what I am saying. Now, people might blame Nedu for this or for that or for that or for this. But remember, you went there all by yourself. You did what you had to do. You thought what you were doing was going to promote you. In fact, you were not selfless. You were selfish, which is not wrong. You were greedy, which might not be necessarily a bad thing at that particular point in time. You wanted exposure. Well, that was not entirely a bad thing. You might be in need of it. But you must also remember that seeking for exposure or just chasing clout can go the right way or the very, very wrong way. This is just what I want people to take away from this whole situation.